Okay, so I've been meaning to re-record this video for quite some time for our own internal SOPs, and I thought, why not do a slightly longer video explaining it in a little bit more detail, and then just share it with the public. As when we were first starting our agency, this is something that we really struggled with for quite a while, and it caused a lot of issues. And so basically, in this video, I'm going to go over our lead management system inside of Clay. So this is how we manage a client's total addressable market to make sure that as we're running through it every 60 to 90 days, we're avoiding duplicates, contact like recontacting, do not contacts, or bounced addresses. And so we try to keep the system as simple as possible, but we used to have a way more complex system with loads of different sheets and moving parts. And over the months, we've like slowly boiled it down. And so this is where we're at. So it all starts with scraping your entire target market, which is something we'd recommend doing. If you don't know how big your target market is, how many addresses you actually have to contact, then you can't calculate how many emails you need to be sending per month to, you know, go through your entire target market within a 60 or 90-day period, however long you choose to run through it. Obviously, if you've got an absolutely massive target market, then you may not need to scrape the entire thing. But at some point, you're going to get to that point where you've exported every list from every database everywhere, extracted and scraped to the web. Um, and so what we like to do in our agency anyway is we'll start by scraping a client's entire target market, and we'll upload that to a templated new lead sheet. And so this sheet just has a few template enrichments built into it. So if I go to the default page, you'll be able to see them. And so the first one is it will enrich for the website. So we'll the scraped website link will always go into the in dot website column. And then any that are missing a website link, it will enrich using Clearbit, which is a free enrichment inside Clay, totally worth using. And that will just try and find any missing websites. And they all just feed into a master website column. And then we've got exactly the same for the email. So the in email is where we put any scraped email addresses. Then we've got Clay's template workflow for enriching um, work emails, which we don't have all of these turned on at all times because it's just not necessary to have that many. But it's nice. It's a nice workflow because you can just turn things on and off by just clicking edit group. Um, and so we run that for the email addresses and they all feed into the master column. And then we also check the ESP, which is the email service provider, just in case we want to separate campaigns. So sometimes we'll separate outlooks, or we'll hold off reaching out to ESPs like Proofpoint or Barracuda, as they tend to be a lot stricter until last. So we always like to get that data in. And then what we'll also do in this sheet is we'll do our ICP check. Obviously, you don't want to be reaching out to leads that aren't actually um, a proper prospect for you. So, you know, for example, if you're reaching out to beauty e-com brands with over 50 employees, then we'll fit in a Claygent to check that they are an e-commerce brand, another Claygent to check that they're a beauty brand, and then you might do a formula to check the employee count is greater than or equal to 50. Now, if any one of those criteria aren't matched, we'll edit this column here, which is our run status formula, to make sure that it spits out do not run. So if any one of the ICP criteria isn't fit, then it'll spit out do not run. And that means that, as I'll show you in a second with the views, when you go to run these leads, you're only running leads that are good to run. And so as you can see in this formula, we've also got some other things working in the formula already. And so what we have here is some lookups, and these run on a weekly basis. So the first one looks up the bounce list. So all of our email service, email sending tools and clients' campaigns and everything, they all feed into one bounce list. So anytime there is a bounce, it goes into that list. And then we just look up um, once a week, whether in the email column in the balance sheet, if there is a match between an email in any one of the rows within this sheet. And so if one of the emails in the one of the rows in this sheet shows up as a bounce, there is a match, um, then that will change the status in this run status column. The same with the do not contact sheet, which is here, and I'll explain that in a little bit. And the same with the failed. And so these three run on a regular basis, just to make sure we're not accidentally contacting anybody that we shouldn't be. And so once this is ran and you've got your list of good to run leads, um, we've created some templated views just to make it nice and easy for us to export. And so you've got non-Microsoft, so this is all the leads that are not part of the Microsoft, like not not using Microsoft as their email service provider. Um, and then we've got Microsoft. So those are just ones that are using Microsoft as their email service provider. And we've also got some other filters in place. So making sure that the run status contains good, which means good to run, and that the email service provider is not empty. If it is empty, that means that there isn't an email in the email column or there isn't a valid email in the email column. And so that's just like a nice fail safe. And so once we have a batch of leads that we want to export, we might set the number of rows that we want to export for a specific campaign run. Say it's like 10,000 rows, we just set that number. And I prefer to just click on the export button and download as a CSV. I find that so much easier, and then importing that into the playbook, which I'll get to in a second, rather than sending data to another table. Just personal preference. What I'll then do once I've exported the sheet is I'll select all the rows that I've just exported and I'll delete them. Um, and that is so that they're no longer in this table. They're now in action and they'll be moving to the second table after they've run. Now, if you have more than 50,000 rows, which is the cap that you have in Clay per table, then we just have a duplicate of this sheet. And obviously you can just do one for every additional set of 50,000 rows. And all we do here is we just add an extra column, which looks up table one to make sure there aren't any duplicates. And if there are, then we can just filter those out on any of the views that we use to export leads. And obviously, if you have multiple sheets, then you can just do multiple of these. Just make sure that you're looking up all the other sheets. This is super useful as well if you're like, you scrape one segment of your TAM and then another segment, and you want to put it on different sheets. You can just make sure that you're checking for duplicates between them. And so once you've got that list of leads ready to run, 9 times out of 10, there's going to be some kind of personalization going on them, or you obviously need to be making sure that they are valid email addresses. So we do that in a separate workbook. So we always do that in what we call our playbooks. And so we will 9 times out of 10 be working from a template that we created for the first campaign, and then each new campaign we might tweak some things. And so we just we name the sheet that we're working in as the date that we're going to be running the campaign on. And so we'll upload all the leads that we've exported into the sheet. It will then verify them to make sure that the addresses are good to run. Any that fail will be sent back to that sheet in the lead management area called failed. And so this is obviously just because their email address failed doesn't mean that you don't want to contact them. They're still within your ICP. You've got LinkedIn, you've got cold calling, and so there are other means of reaching out to them. So we always just like to put them into here, and then we can work on those at a later date or through a different system. And so then we've got all of our enrichment that goes on for a campaign. So this is just one of the sheets that we've got from another client. And so once they've finished enriching, then we'll send those off to email sending tool. We always like to leave all the leads that we're running for a campaign in the playbook, just as a point of reference, as a log, in case anything happens on the sending tool, you have some kind of campaign error or whatever it may be. At least you've just got all the leads there, either to export them again or just to reference and make sure you just call back on at any point. And so that's why I said we just duplicate the sheet for the next run and we timestamp it again so we know which campaign it's for, or name it after the campaign. And yeah, we just slowly build up a basically like a history of all the different campaigns that you run, which is also kind of cool to see the evolution of your play tables and like the enrichments and things like that you end up doing. So once a campaign has finished running, we always like to export all the leads from the campaign. And we use email Bison as our email sending tool, so you don't even need to delete the leads from campaigns. When we used to use Smart Lead and Instantly, you'd have to delete the leads as well just to free up space in your account. Otherwise, you spend an absolute fortune. Anyway, we'll export the leads, we'll export all of them, and we feed those leads into table run two, which is a duplicate of the table one, literally a carbon copy, exactly the same data in here. Um, and what we're essentially the I have completely lost my words here. The premise of this system is we'll upload the entire target market into the first few sheets. As we start running them, we export them and input them into the next sheet. And so by the time these sheets are empty, that means we'll have ran through the entire target market. The entire target market will now be in the next set of running sheets. But a couple of things will have happened to those. And so, as you can see here, we've got this column called lead status. And so what we map here is the um, the outcome of the lead from the email sending tool. So if the lead replied, that data is in here. If the lead bounced, that data is in here. If the lead didn't do anything, and so they're basically good to run again, that data is also in here. And so this column dictates whether that lead is good to run again or not. And that's data that you always get from your email sending tool when you export the lead list. It'll tell you like the lead status. And so any leads that have the status of uh, lead replied, they'll always get sent to the do not contact sheet, which is here. And so that's to make sure that we don't contact them. Obviously, if they're not interested, you can't be contacting them again. But also, it's like if they positively responded or they booked a meeting or whatever it may be, we add them here as well because we then can work them in a different format. They normally are sent off to our client CRM, and then the client handles them from there anyway. So you don't want to be contacting them again with more cold email offers. So they all get sent off through the do not contact. Um, any bounced will change the status of the run status to make sure it says do not run again, and they're all automatically added to the bounce list through the email sending tools already, just through a basic automation. Um, and so over time, as you run through your TAM and you rerun it, you'll have less and less good to run leads because leads will start to make their way into the do not contact sheet. Bounce leads will be added to the bounce list, and leads that you then re-verify, a chunk of those will fail and they'll be added to the fail sheet. And so that's basically it. That is the system as a whole, like I say. So basically, you've got an enrichment sheet. You put all your leads onto that sheet. You then take leads from that sheet as you run them into your email sending tool, and then you just move them onto a second sheet, and you just slowly keep running them through. Yeah, simple stuff, really. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions. And I hope that has been helpful for somebody out there. And obviously, the Lighthouse team, this is for you guys too. So yeah.